Hi, I'm Teddy Atlas. Recently, I've been doing instructional videos with BJJ fanatics, and I enjoy doing it. I enjoy teaching, and there's a different aspect to it now where I don't have to go into camp for a couple months with a fighter and emotionally invest everything in myself to teach, because teaching has been 45 years of my life. Uh, and I like to teach, but sometimes going away to camp with a fighter, it takes a lot out of you, and you never know what's going to happen. You never know if the relationship is going to maintain itself, and if all your work is going to be realized. It's going to be worthwhile. You hope it is, but you never know. But this gives me, doing with BJJ fanatics, gives me an opportunity to teach without that part of it, to teach to many people, to you guys, if you're willing to learn and you want to grab some of those videos and watch. But that's the thing I found so interesting and good about it, is that I don't have to go and commit to a fighter. I just commit to doing a video for people to watch, and it's always there. And there's not, again, that emotional investment. And yeah, physically I got to work hard for a day, but it's not like when you're working every day. As you get older, that's a little tougher. Your back starts to hurt sometimes. So I really appreciate this opportunity to do these videos where the teaching can continue. And I hope that you guys enjoyed it. And after I got finished doing one the other day, I started thinking about the thing I used to always talk about on ESPN. Yeah, there's the physical component, there's the technical component, the mental component, 75% of it. And it got me thinking a little bit, and that's why I'm doing this right now, to talk to you guys about that part. Because when I do my teaching, I do talk about that. I talk in the way where that's the cement, that's the glue that keeps the pieces in place. Where you teach all pieces like a puzzle, but then the glue is the mental part, keeps it all together. And I was thinking about that recently as I'm doing my podcast and these things, and with what's in the current news, what's going on in boxing. And then you hear, unfortunately, that Oscar De La Hoya, one of our really, really top fighters in the modern era, won a lot of titles at different weight classes, gold medalist. I mean, tremendously successful fighter, and now promoter, where he's having problems. And I started thinking about the mental side of it, where right now things are unraveling for him. And it's sad. You feel bad if you care about human life, about human beings at all. You don't have to be invested in a person's life, but you just feel bad to see somebody going down that spiral, hole, so to speak, where things are going wrong. And I started thinking that even as a fighter, he was a tremendous fighter, but psychologically in his biggest fights, he would always find a way to undermine himself. I mean, whether it was the Mosley fight where he's fighting, all his top fights, where he's fighting a top fighter, obviously, and he's winning the fight, and then Mosley makes an adjustment, which is what you do in life when things have to be changed to get success, or you do in a fight. And Oscar never made an adjustment. Even though he saw that Mosley made an adjustment and things were starting to go the wrong way for him, he never made an adjustment. He lost the fight. And then he fights Trinidad, and he's winning the fight. Going into the last rounds, I think the 10th round, 3 rounds to go. And what does he do? He stops doing what he's doing to win, and he starts running, basically running, but say boxing, but completely defensive, just to survive, and he blows the fight. A lot of people say, oh, you should have still got it. But in some ways, he lost the right to complain about maybe getting robbed by the way he behaved at the end in that fight. And then he fights Mayweather. And with Mayweather, what's the key? Well, the key with Mayweather was that you want to take his speed out of the equation and his counterpunching ability out of the equation. And you're taller, right? So you're Oscar De La Hoya, so you're taller, you use the jab. Bang, 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 to keep him at a certain range, him being Mayweather, where he can't counter There's nothing to counter. You're giving him the jab, you're keeping him there. There's no body to counter. And you don't have to deal with the speed. And he's winning those rounds when he's doing that, right? And then what's he do? He comes forward. He sabotages himself. And he walks into the faster hands. He allows the hand speed now to come into play. And by coming forward, he allows there to be something to counterpunch now. Now you can counterpunch something. Now Floyd, one of the best defensive fighters and counterpunchers of our time, he's able to have him in a position inside and close where he can do his thing, his magic. Where he couldn't do it when Oscar was on the outside. Sabotages himself. Why? Why? I mean, it takes more discipline. A lot of people say, oh, it showed more bravery going inside. No. In some ways, you're letting go of yourself. You're letting the current take you. You're letting yourself drift. You're going inside, you're just letting yourself go. Maybe you think you could hide a little. You could physically you physically have an advantage. You could outman them, or maybe you could smother. You could tie up. You could do those things. But it takes more discipline, more belief, more control to stay outside and man that post. Bang, bang, and not be drawn in. It takes more control, more, I hate to use the word character, but in some ways, maybe that. But definitely more emotional control. But he wasn't able to do it. He always found a way to screw up the biggest fights. And now he's finding a way to screw up his promotional company, his relationship, his decisions with his business, his relationship with his fighters. And during my podcast recently, I talked about it a little bit. And I made like a half a joke, but I said, maybe you should get a dog. And I didn't mean it to be mean-spirited. I really didn't. I just was saying that from a psychological standpoint, he's always been a guy who needs approval. Needs someone to like him. So I was half joking, but I was half serious. I didn't mean it in any way to be mean, because at this point, it's a thing to be concerned about. That he needs to get help to help him with these things. And again, these are things that have shown themselves. We're only seeing it now in the business aspects, but there was always a way of undermining himself, as I just pointed out, where probably nobody thought about this before, maybe, in his biggest fights. So there is something. And if people say, Teddy, you're practicing psychology, you're a trainer. That's what trainers do. You better know more than X's and O's in my business. You better understand about this psychological part, because that's what it's about. That's 75% of it. At the end of the day, I just thought it would be interesting that I'm doing all these videos, talking about technique, everything else, and still, at the end of the day, it still comes down to 75 to use your technique, to use it in that environment, that difficult environment, under pressure. It comes down to the psychological part, the mental part. Just thought it'd be interesting to talk about that. And I hope Oscar's all right. And I hope he does, seriously, go and seek somebody to talk to.